I've been wanting to talk about today's episode for a long time. I've even reached out to certain people who I thought could contribute to the conversation. And really, it's relatable to a widespread group of people. Because what I want to talk about is substance use, or drugs and alcohol. And I actually posted on Facebook today, which by the time that this episode airs will have been months previously. But this morning, I posted an article that I came across on Facebook, which was talking about some studies with rats and their response to substance use. I think it was cocaine that they had put in their bottle of water. They had fresh water or they had drug-laced water. And in the study, the rat who was just in a cage, just a rat in a cage with the water bottles, would choose the drugged water 100% of the time and then would eventually die within weeks. But then a researcher came in and said, well, we're going to change this a little bit and we're going to create this rat haven. So it was this area where the rat could engage in all the things that rats love. And then we are going to give them both sets of water bottles and see what happens. And in that situation, the rat always chose the pure water. It was an enlightening article because when we think about addiction, we think about addiction having a hold on us. And it's something chemical, right? They talk about it being a disease. It seems that way in the first study with the rat that just kept engaging in the drug use. It seems like it became something that was in their physical body that they wanted to keep feeding. But then when you change the environment and you give this animal all the things that it loves to engage in, it chooses a life without drugs. And so you learn that addiction really isn't something that is residing in the brain. It's environmental. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to get into this topic of substance use and drugs and alcohol. Everything is working out for me. It's working out for you, too. It just takes believing that it is. We can have, be, and do anything. The key is to care about how you feel and choose to feel good right now. I just want to start by saying that when I was organizing my thoughts around this topic, I realized that I was going to go into this naming this episode as it pertains to drugs and alcohol. And in the moment that I came across that thought, I thought to myself, why am I separating the two? Why do I separate alcohol out of that when we all know and agree that alcohol is a drug? So how come I can't just say, I want to talk about substance use and drugs and have it be known that alcohol is in the mix also? But it's not, is it? Because our society has normalized alcohol use, and it is socially acceptable to engage in alcohol use to the point to where it gets its own category. It gets its own category of acceptance. It's not as bad as this title of drugs, because everybody knows that doing drugs is bad. But alcohol, that's okay. That's socially acceptable because I drink alcohol, so it can't be that bad. And I'm realizing that these thoughts are coming to me and analyzing our social structure as we look at alcohol use. I actually had a conversation with somebody recently who was explaining to me their moral code as it pertains to drugs. And they were saying, well, I don't do drugs. It was actually, we were talking about ayahuasca. And this person said, well, that's a drug. And I was saying, well, it's plant medicine, because that's the way that I view it. But yes, it is a substance that you're putting in your body, which alters things. It alters things for you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It's altering your state of being. But this person who was talking about how passionate they were about them not doing drugs drinks on a regular basis. They drink alcohol on a regular basis. And at the time, that didn't occur to me. And I kind of wish that it had, because then I could have said, well, wait a minute. You're saying you don't do drugs, but you engage in drug use on a regular basis every time that you drink alcohol. Not to mention those times on occasion where you engage in using marijuana, another legalized drug here in the state of Washington. So then I started thinking, why is that? Why is it that we have this different view of substances when they've been legalized? It's as if it gives you a different code. You have your moral code as it pertains to drug use, but once said drug is legalized, it exonerates that substance from the category of being a drug. Now it's in its own category. And that's why we separate drugs and alcohol. So what's the reason behind that? Why do we do that? Is it something that's happening unconsciously? Is it something that we are doing because of our own selfish perspective? Whereas I know that I am a good person. I know that I am health conscious. I know that I do things that promote wellness for myself. Therefore, these activities that I engage in cannot be viewed as bad, is almost the way that it seems. Like, yes, I'm against drugs because of the negative connotation that comes with that title of drugs. But because I drink alcohol, that one's okay. And then I started thinking, well, what if it's even bigger than that? What if it's not on an individual level? What if it's widespread like that because that was the intention? The intention of those who have something to gain from all of us socially engaging in this substance use. I mean, we could probably come up with some reason that has some financial gain with any topic that we bring up. Whereas we could say, well, the people that make money off of this, so obviously they are going to paint it in a picture that promotes it because it benefits them. And there probably is some of that in there. Here in Washington, a few years ago, we had it on the ballot that we could choose to get rid of the liquor stores and have liquor, hard alcohol, in regular grocery stores. And it passed. So that's the way the state is now. We don't have liquor stores anymore. It's just you can buy hard alcohol, wine, beer, any kind of alcohol in your regular grocery store. Go to Walmart, Safeway, whatever it might be. And yet, all of the price went up because of the tax that came with it. And I think that there's those hidden agendas in things where people aren't really thinking everything through when they're making a decision. And in that situation, that offers a lot of convenience because you're going to the store to do your grocery shopping anyway. You might as well be able to pick up your substance of choice in alcohol form while you're there. It makes it easier. It's more convenient. Well, it actually ended up making it so that us, the people, are now paying more for this convenience, but it is the way of life now, and it is the way it is. And then on top of that, we had things that also further promoted the ease of getting your alcohol when it started to be delivered to you at your house. And I am an Instacart user. I love Instacart, and it really got me through the pandemic, and I continue to use it. For my Costco orders, I love Instacart. I also engage in Walmart pickup orders. And both of those options allow me to put alcohol on the list. They will go and pick it out for me. And in the scenario of Costco through Instacart, where they bring my order to me, they can bring me whatever alcohol the store offers right to my door. Super convenient. And I'm going to go out and say that there's probably something in the works that will also be along these lines for marijuana, because we have dispensaries all over the place here in the state of Washington now. Just in my small little town, there are several. And that promotes people using the substance, which then promotes profit. It just makes sense that you get people the product, you make more money. So then there's other drugs. There's other drugs that are legal, but only when prescribed, like pain medications. And I recently was talking to someone else about that show on Netflix, Painkiller, I think it's called. I haven't watched it, but this person was explaining to me that basically Oxycontin is heroin in a pill. And this docuseries that's on Netflix goes into how that was promoted in the medical field and how people became addicted to it. People were dying from it. And now we have this issue around Oxycontin or oxycodone, where people are totally addicted to pain pills. And when that happens and it's restricted through prescription, that means that it's harder to get. But if somebody is addicted to something, then they are going to do whatever they can to get the substance that they desire. And so then people turn to finding it on the street, and now it's laced with other things, and it's more dangerous. But when we look at painkillers, prescription painkillers, who benefits from that? It's pharmaceutical companies, right? It is big pharma. They are the ones who profit from people using the substance and getting addicted to it. That's just more money in their pocket when people want the substance. Simple supply and demand is what it comes down to when we're discussing drugs, including alcohol. I like that better. Not drugs and alcohol, drugs including alcohol, since it is also a drug. So jumping back to this post that I made on Facebook today and the article about the rats. The reason I shared it was because it highlighted something very important to understand. What it said was, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It's connectedness. And that made perfect sense to me, because based on what I know, we have an innate desire to be connected to non-physical in some way, whether we're conscious of that desire or not. It's there. And it's because we are spiritual beings, first and foremost. We're just here living this physical experience. So we have that desire to be connected to who we really are. And people process that desire in a lot of ways. And one of them is through substance use. Because what happens when you use substances is you decrease resistance. And that allows for you to get a sense of relief, which then offers you this sense of connectedness to something that you don't even understand you're connected to.
Would you like to have an ad-free experience? I know you probably have my intro and my outro memorized by now, and maybe you just kind of want to cut out that ad space, this one right now that you're listening to, so that you can just get all of the content of the episode. Well, if that does sound like something that you're interested in, I've put together a Patreon account, and I'm offering all of the episodes I've recorded so far without that extra stuff, so you just get the content. And I'm also going to be offering members early access to the newly released episodes. So I'll be putting those on Patreon several days before the episode releases on all the other podcast platforms. So you'll be able to listen before everybody else. You can find the link to the Patreon in the show notes, and I'm also going to post on social media, so you should be able to find it on all of my pages there as well. I look forward to getting to know all of you guys better and engaging in some co-creating together. For now, I'll just get back to the episode. See you on Patreon.
When people are addicted or even just engaging in substance use, no matter what the substance is, it is my belief that the desire is the same for everybody. And it is that sense of connectedness, that desire to be connected to who they really are, that is driving that craving. Because they get a little taste of it when they engage in the substance use. And then they want it more. They want to chase that feeling because it feels better. It's relief. It's relief from their environmental structure, which is keeping them in a holding pattern of not being satisfied, not feeling good. And that's how it becomes a problem, because now those individuals are chasing the high or just chasing the relief because they want to feel better. And now they're stuck in that state of being, but they're still surrounded with the misery and nothing's getting better. And addiction is now just contributing to the environmental misery. So then I thought, what if that person were to do things a little bit differently? What if, for one, they realized when they have the craving for whatever their drug of choice is, that what they're really craving is connectedness. So an awareness of that desire and what it really means. And then two, what if they tried to connect in a different way? Rather than going to their drug of choice, which has now become a habit and something that they rely on for offering them the outcome that they desire. What if they tried something different with the intention of connecting? So setting the intention of connecting with themselves, because that's what it is every single time, a connection with their higher self. And this could be done in whatever way works for the person. And for some people, that's just getting out into nature, being mindful and in the moment, smelling the breeze, touching the ground, hugging a tree, whatever it is that makes you feel connected to nature. That works for a lot of people. What if it's meditation? What if you go and you just sit quietly for 15 minutes? What if it's just sitting and tuning in and allowing information to flow to you? Allowing those lines of communication with your higher self to be open, because that is the intention that you set. What if connecting in those different ways allows for the craving for the substance to dissipate? Would they still want to engage in the substance after engaging in that kind of activity first? That's the question I have. I don't have the answer. I'm wondering that. I'm wondering if that works. I don't know much about AA or Alcoholics Anonymous, but I do know that that kind of treatment incorporates some belief in a higher power. And I think it's kind of left open. It doesn't have to be titled as God. It's whatever the person defines as their own higher power, but some kind of higher power. And I'm wondering now if the reason behind that is because these individuals who set forth to overcome their addiction to alcohol realized at some point that their connectedness to a higher power made all the difference. And I don't know if that was a conscious understanding, a feeling, just a knowing. I'm not sure exactly what kind of foundation that's built on. But I do know that that is something that is incorporated into the treatment in AA. And I believe that whoever came to that had some kind of realization that their desire for the alcohol that was driving the addiction really had something to do with a desire to connect with a higher power. And that is brilliant because I believe that is the root of all drug use, is that desire to feel connected. The drug use lowers the resistance, allowing for a sense of feeling more connected. It would make sense to me that when treating addiction and trying to help somebody to overcome that addiction, that incorporating in some kind of higher power for that person to focus on would allow for those lines of communication between that person consciously, their human consciousness, and their higher power, inner being consciousness, to open up and connect, and then reinforce this desire to not use alcohol in order to get there. So I think that those who are in AA are doing that. And they are coming together with other individuals who are doing the same. And it becomes the support of it. So even though they don't promote a spiritual foundation within the treatment, they kind of do, because that's really what is happening, is a connectedness to non-physical source energy power. And then the person reinforces the feeling better because now they're getting connected without the use of a substance. And a lot of people relapse, right? Even if somebody gets on the wagon, sometimes they fall off the wagon. And usually it's because there's some big life event that has occurred and they feel overwhelmed and they fall back into old patterns. With something like addiction, there's a lot of momentum with that. There's a lot of history with that. There's a lot of engaging in that behavior. That's a vibrational frequency. And the more that you contribute to it, the stronger it is in your life. Until you've cleaned it all out and really found satisfaction without it present, it's still somewhat active in you. And things can trigger it and allow it to come forth and become a part of your experience again. I really felt like I needed to have this conversation and speak to drug use because it's something that so many people engage in. And some people are able to do it and it doesn't create a problem in their lives. And other people engage in it and it creates a lot of problems in their lives. And that's usually when people start to look at it and think, this is something that I probably should change. Or they have somebody come to them and say, hey, this is a problem. And if you don't change it, there's going to be consequences, whether it be for the person or in their relationships, whatever it might be. It's something that is recognized by somebody as being a problem in their lives. It's a very big mental health topic and one that is interwoven with the medical field in mental health treatment. And that's something that I feel strongly about. I remember working with a client who was on several prescription medications for a variety of reasons. And the medical provider at the agency I worked at was prescribing based on their knowledge of how to help this client. And I didn't agree because there were things that were being suppressed by this individual who was taking the medications because of the medications. The medications were promoting suppression. And here I'm in a therapeutic process with this person, and I'm asking questions that they couldn't give me answers to because their memories and their thoughts were being suppressed and fogged, basically. So I have a strong feeling about medications as far as how they are used in mental health treatment. But I will say this. I do believe that there is a good use for them. And I don't recommend that anybody stop cold turkey on anything that they've been using for a long period of time. Anything that has a lot of momentum going is really, really hard to stop in its tracks. And it's not the way I would recommend going about it. So if you have a desire to stop any kind of drug use, whether it be legal or illegal, there is a good way to do that by engaging in a decrease over time while working on your thoughts associated with the drug that you have been engaged in using. Because the work really has to do with how you think about it and the vibrational output that you're offering than it does with the actual drug being in your system. Now, if you have a belief that something bad is going to happen if you stop using whatever substance it is that you're using, then I would not encourage you to stop using it, because your belief is your creative power, and that is stronger than any drug. Now, if you want to stop using a substance and you're willing to look at your beliefs and alter the ones that are not serving you while you work on decreasing the amount of the drug that you are using, that is a form of treatment that I can get on board with. The work is always internal, and a lot of times the desire for anything is coming from something internal. But it all really comes down to you being connected with you. Are you connected with you? Do you know how to connect with you? Even if you don't believe in a higher power, do you believe that there is a bigger part of who you are besides being your human self? Do you have something bigger within you? I have a hard time believing that that won't resonate with anybody, because there is, of course, a bigger part of you than your human consciousness. You are so much more than your humanness. And that connectedness that you desire, that relief that you desire, it's all within that, within the relationship that you have with that bigger part of you. Acknowledging that you have a desire to connect with that is huge. Setting the intention to do so is even bigger than that. And allowing yourself to nurture that and see where it takes you is life-changing. That's my hope. That's my hope for everybody. It's fun to connect with each other. That's why we're here in these physical bodies, experiencing each other and life in this world. It's grand. It's wonderful. It's terrific. But the answer to all problems, the answer to all desire, and the best feeling that any of us can ever have comes from that connection with who we really are. If you're enjoying the podcast, you can show your support by leaving a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. You also can follow Dr. Williams' podcast on all social media platforms and subscribe on YouTube and by going to www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Deliberate creation is the key to living life satisfied, and that is my wish for all of you.